that, and thank you for coming back. So with that said, let's jump into today. At your table, I'd like you to talk to people around you about what's your mood coming into day two? How are you feeling? Isn't that cute? How many minutes talk to each other? Right. I love how much you are talking to one another. It's good to have friends. And I would prefer that situations like this not be the only time that you talk to each other. You can reach out to one another all the time. If you're in Spartanburg 1, you can reach out to Spartanburg 2, 3, 4. If you're in Greenwood 52, you should be calling Greenwood 50 and talking about how are you handling X, Y, Z. I saw a lot of smiles while we were going through this. I'm glad to see a lot of smiles. Yesterday, probably not quite as many smiles, but we've had an overnight to kind of think and feel. So I'm hoping that your mood is a little more relaxed today. Some of you might be sleepy. Some of you might feel like, I don't know about excited, but focused for sure. It is a time to be focused, especially when you go back with the knowledge that you gained. Time to focus in and come up with a game plan for whether it goes this way or whether it goes that way. Time to focus and game plan. So I'm going to start out this morning with talking about Title II. As we mentioned yesterday, just to be honest, I can't predict for you about Title II. I honestly do not know. Title IV, I feel better about because they did release preliminary allocations and I continue to receive information from that office. So I am a little more hopeful about IV, but I don't know about Title II. And so that being said, I'll take a moment to talk about transferring. Some of you like to transfer like 4 into 2 or, 1 over into REAP or whatever. I would caution you at this point with Title II. I would caution you there because I don't know. So if you are one that likes to do transferring, you need to keep in mind that right now I've not had any communication as far as Title II is concerned. 26 Title II. So as we talk about it, we're going to talk about it in terms of 25, which you have. Okay, and so if you need to make amendments to it or whatnot, you can go by today's information to help you with the current funding that you do have. You do need, especially if you're a new coordinator, I will tell you that you need to go home and you need to sit with finance and you need to figure out how much money you have in the carryover budget for Title II. You need to do the same thing for 4, and especially for 1. You need to know where you're sitting with that. When we talk about REAP, I do have a GAN for REAP if you're a REAP district, and later on we'll get into Title V. But REAP is built off of Title II and Title IV. So I say that to you in terms of next year. If 2 doesn't come in for 26, I don't know what that would look like for REAP for 27. If we continue on our normal trend, we have to submit information to the U.S. Department of Ed on our allocations for the prior year for Title II and Title IV, and they will read some of that information. So I'll say that as related to Title II here. So keep all of these things in mind as you are moving forward with your planning. Title II currently strongly focuses on the word effective. What is effective? And evaluating towards effective. When you pull data, if it does not look like it affected positively enough, then it needs to be revised. If you have professional development, if you're not seeing results from that PD that was enough to call it a bang for the buck, then you need to plan differently for the next go round. Okay, don't do the same things and not get enough results. The money is too tight to allow for that at this point. If it's not producing positively enough for the teachers and kids and all of that, regardless of whatever grant it is, it probably needs to be revised. Okay, you need to think about that. You think about vendors, or you have speakers coming in or whatnot. Is it moving the needle? Okay, that is part of the role of the coordinator. So if you handle Title II or you handle any grant, part of your job duty is to assess all of that. Currently, U.S. Department of Ed asks us for evaluations in several grants. Some of them are formal. They ask for it formally with Title IV. They ask for it formally with neglected and delinquent and REAP. And so you should be assessing. That is a piece, we talked about that yesterday, evaluating and assessing. And we have linked in the non-regulatory guidance for Title II. So if you need that, you can link into the PowerPoint to pull that out. Okay, what is the purpose of Title II? Increase student achievement consistent with challenging state academic standards. Improve the quality and effectiveness of teachers and principals. Title II, I've always thought about it in terms of this is for the grown people working in education. Title I really goes on down to the children. But Title II, you can support that teacher standing in front of those kids, principals, and school leaders. Number 3, increase the number of teachers and principals who are effective in improving student academic achievement in schools. And how do we do that? You kind of have to be on the cutting edge of knowing what the needs are academically. So if you are new to the role and you are not a curriculum person, I would encourage you to become friends with the curriculum person in your district to know, okay, what is best practices? How can I fund what the teachers need to make it all the way down for student achievement? So you need to have conversations and quality conversations with people that understand what is going on with curriculum and instruction too. And the last one, provide low-income and minority students greater access to effective teachers and principals. Most of us have been a teacher. We all understand that when it comes down to it, it comes down to who is standing in front of those kids. And it is our job to make sure that they feel supported too. And let me say this, if Title II happens to go away, you still have to do that. Okay, you have got to make allowance to support people who stand in front of these kids. So keep that in mind. Key definitions for Title II. What is evidence-based? What does PD mean? And what does training mean? If you've been around education long enough, you pretty much understand what evidence-based is. But let's take a look at PD. The definition says it must be sustained rather than consisting of a standalone one-day or short-term workshop. It must be intensive, collaborative, job-embedded, data-driven, and classroom-focused. So when you start reviewing like what the district might want to do in terms of PD, in your role, you need to come to it with this definition in mind, if Title II is going to support it. So at this point, if you're going to amend anything in 25 Title II for PD, please keep that definition in mind. Because when we review your applications, we have that definition in mind. If I see something that looks like a one-day job and it's expensive, I'm probably not going to approve that unless I find the justification to be tight enough to do that. Like I said earlier, we are not in a time frame to be paying for a speaker that is extremely popular just to say we had that person and things such as that. Okay, it needs to be intensive, sustained, and not really standalone. And what is training? Training refers to the standalone one-day or short-term workshop, unless explicitly mentioned in that section, or if the training is part of a PD or school improvement plan. Trainings are typically not able to be funded by Title II. I'm not saying you can't do those things, but you have to keep in mind the purpose of Title II and what it intends to do. What are allowable uses of Title II Part A funds? And so we've scripted them here for you, especially if you are coming into this role, maybe you were hired July 1st, and you are just now starting to read the Title II plan that was left for you from last year. You can pull these slides and look at the activities in the Title II, the current Title II plan, and kind of weigh them against these allowable uses of funds. Okay. This is very interesting when we talk about the district use of a Title II fund. Title II, if you're new to any of these grants, it's not like Title I. They don't go out on school-wide programs. Okay, so they're used on the district level. Title IV is used on the district level. It's not like Title I. It's pushed out to Rhodes Elementary, Walker Elementary. It's not like that. Okay, so these are some things that you have to keep in mind. When considering how to use these funds, the district must address the learning needs of all the students, focus to the extent possible on those evidence-based strategies for decision-making, use the funds to develop, implement, and evaluate comprehensive programs and activities. And number 3, check that one out. Prioritize the allocations of funds to high needs schools. So you really need to take those schools into consideration when you think about the uses of Title II funds as relates to developing professional development for the people in those buildings and things of that nature. Okay. It is very much like Title I. One person doesn't make all the decisions about how they're going to use the funds or amend the funds. You come back to the table with your stakeholders to talk about that. Yesterday, C.R. Hall was here, and I know she does DSSR plans. And in those plans, goals are scripted, and you have to say what fund is supporting those goals. And so ultimately, our plan is to have a script where you kind of come to the table all at one time, and you can say Title I is going to support that goal, Title II is going to support that goal, Title IV is going to support that goal, and not have to do double and triple work for yourself. So when you come to the table, bring your stakeholders, look at your goals. What are we trying to do for this district, and how can we fund it? Remember that Title II is under the old supplement, not supplant. And so these funds come on top of what the district would regularly do. Okay, some more district uses of funds. It breaks down professional growth and development, supporting effective instruction, and specialized training and certification. So if in your role, you have somebody come to the stakeholder table and they bring like an activity to you and you are new, I would have these slides and I would take a look to see, okay, does it meet any of the bullets that are addressed on these slides? Kind of use these as a checklist, especially if you are new in the role. Also, if you're new in the role, I would encourage you not to just put anything in a plan or amend the plan and send it to the state and say, they'll let us know if that works. Don't do that. Do your homework prior to, because all that does is slow traction, because then it goes to the program manager who's going to send it back with questions, and then you kind of get in this volley back and forth. Okay, so it's best to do your best on the front end to determine, does it look like it meets the definition, and then send it. You might say, well, Jennifer, that sounds silly. People don't do that. Yes, they do. Okay. And sometimes I do understand that sometimes the no needs to come from us, and that's a totally different situation. This is what I'm talking about just putting it in prior to really know. It goes back to the roles of the coordinator that I talked about yesterday. If you need to understand the programs and learn the programs and be the expert at the table when you are working with your stakeholders. You can recruit, hire, and retain effective teachers with these funds. So we break that down. How do we do that? Signing bonuses. We're giving a lot of examples here of how you can use these funds to support that. And I will say that most of the plans that I read is full of class size reduction or PE. That's really what South Carolina comes into. There are some signing bonuses or retention bonuses and things like that. If you are new and the district wants to do bonuses of some sort, please know ahead of time to put some supporting documentation into the related documents section so that the program manager can read, like, what is the district's policy on a bonus? What is the scale for the bonus? What are the parameters around the bonus? What has the district been okay with prior to us funding that? So this gives you a breakdown of examples in this particular area for improving hiring and retaining. Continued educator supports. This really gets into like leaning into helping whoever you hire with their specific needs and how Title II can pay for specific needs of that person. It also will support like mentoring of a new teacher. And you hear me say teacher, 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 principal, the adults in the district. Class size reduction, we just talked about that. Notice bullet number 1, federal funds cannot be used to meet state or local class size requirements. Coming on top of these funds. The school and grade levels for class size reduction must be documented in the needs assessment and listed in the online application. Notice they cannot be used for gifted or special ed programs. If you are new to Title II, there's a class size reduction link in the Title II plan in GEMS where you will have to fill out who those people are and some information about them, what grade level they're going to serve, ratios involved. It kind of really gets in the weeds, and then when it makes it to us, we go into the system to make sure that they're properly certified. We have access to see kind of where they are with their credentials. I think it's Leslie's turn. She's doing me. I'll just keep going on and up. No, you're here. She's gonna carry on.
Let's jump into some professional development. So professional development, what does it mean? Well, it needs to be an integral part of your district strategy for providing educators with knowledge and skills necessary to enable students to succeed in well-rounded education and meet challenging state standards. As Jennifer already said, it needs to be sustained and not stand alone. And it also needs to be evidence-based and effective. So, these are just some examples of some professional development that you could use in your districts and topics. So that is a resource for you to go groups, just different things. Who can have professional development under Title II? So in Title II, you can provide professional development to your teachers, your principals, and your other school leaders. It is a hard push for you to use Title II funding for people that are not within the schools. So that means district staff that are not pushing into the schools should not be considered for professional development under Title II funds. Superintendents should not be used using Title II funds for professional development. It needs to be those people that are in the school and working with instruction. So what is a school leader? Well, a school leader is an employee or an officer of an elementary or secondary school district or other entity operating in elementary or secondary schools, they need to be operating it, and they need to be responsible for the daily instructional leadership, managerial operations in the elementary and secondary school. So what are the requirements for the ENCA for professional development? Well, we already talked about the fact that it needs to be sustained. So it's ongoing, it's not something that I'm just going to get one pop, as you said. It's intensive, it's deep, it's focused, it's learning experience. It's collaborative, job embedded, it's directly connected to your classroom practice, data driven, classroom focused. At the bottom, you'll see that I've got travel conditions listed there. In the new Title II non-regulatory guidance that was released back in January, they mentioned the fact that it is, you have a really, really tight justification for traveling outside of states for professional development. So I know that not everything's offered here. I mean, our office goes to the national conference. And that's not your Columbia, South Carolina, so we are fully aware of that. But that is one thing that you need to take into consideration. There's a conference disclosure. There is an opportunity for you to receive that year. I know that we have some districts that are trying to bring in different people instead of sending people out. That way you're hitting more people within your district for that, that professional development. So just take those things into consideration. I will tell you that this conversation was had with your CFOs as well. I was asked to come and speak to them at their last roundtable. They wanted to know all about the travel consideration. In addition to actual professional development, you can also use Title II to pay for supplements. Let's say that I'm offering workshops over the summer for teachers. I would pay them when they come in and they're non-contracted hours. I can also pay for substitutes while my teachers are out of the classroom and taking professional development. And I can do stipend for completing some professional development as well. So with professional development supplies, I can purchase things to have to conduct the professional development. However, those items cannot go back into the classroom and into the hands of students. So, for instance, I'm doing, say that we have professional development on using TI-85, I don't even know if these are uses. But we have a professional that we buy a set or we buy a calculator for all of our teachers that are in that professional development. Those items can go back into the classroom with the students. Now, I will tell you, I had a district reach out to me about this, and they were talking about math manipulatives. And so I have they were doing a training when using math manipulatives with their teachers. They asked, can we purchase those? And then the teacher used them as a teaching tool. I said, yeah, that's fine. It just can't be an enhanced experience. Questions about materials or supplies? So we can use professional development leadership as well. So we could do like leadership academies to grow our own in our district to become leaders. What I will tell you is one of the things that I question, but there's a lot of money put aside for these leadership academies is, you know, what is the guarantee that these people are staying in their district? Because we're not growing people and jump ship and go to a different district. So keep that in mind when you're pitching out leadership academies and things like that. What's the stipulations that you're going to put out there in your district to when you are paying for part of the process for leaders in the district. So this one is a big topic. We have lots of districts that always in new curriculum, trying to create some different things for their district that goes along with that curriculum. Can I use IRC funds to pay teachers to do that? The answer, the long and short of it is no. You cannot. The only way that we can get around it is if that primary purpose is professional development. So the primary purpose of that curriculum development is truly professional development. The long and short of it, can I pay teachers to create different curriculum pieces? No, I cannot, not with Title II. We can also pay for teacher advancement. But that goes kind of back to that grow your own. So as Jennifer already mentioned, we talked about mentor training. So you can pay teachers to go through mentor training, and you can also pay teachers to be mentors for their time above and beyond their contract hours. You can pay for additional certifications that are needed in your district. So say that there's a big need for some ML teachers in your district, you can pay for that. You can pay for national boards. You can pay for them you can pay for their certificate application for national boards. You can also pay for related professional development, those certificates. And you can even pay for them to take leave to work on those applications. We don't see that. I wish I was around words. And then we do have some districts that pay for advanced degrees for their teachers as well. So we are working to support paraprofessionals or out-of-field teachers. So our allowed activities are coursework to help them get to the required certification or the endorsement that they need, exam preparation, their exam fees, and then activities. So here's the conditions. The activities must be a part of a proper strategy to recruit, prepare, and retain the teachers, to improve instructional quality, and also to align with state certifications. Questions about professional development? Yes. If it's outside their contracted hours, so which it sounds like, so the question was, you bring your teachers in a week before, but they have these 2 sacred days where they're allowed to work in their classroom. So, but we need more professional development time. If I require those teachers or ask those teachers to come in early, can I provide stipend for those teachers if outside of contracted hours? So yes. Yeah. No, as Jennifer already said, you just need to have district policy. The reason for that is You don't want somebody else to come back on it, you're like, well, this school gave. So as long as it's across the board, it's up to the district's discretion. I think we're in that world of race money. That's your fun. Sure, the question was about bringing teachers in. Oh, the second one, the original question was about bringing teachers in early in the summer and giving them a stipend. The second question was about is there like regulations on what stipends we? The answer is no. It needs to be reasonable, but it's up to the district's discretion and just needs to be thinking about support. Yep. Sure. So, national board is, it was really big when I was as a teacher. But yeah, you can pay for their application process at national board. Because that's no longer paid for out of Sarah. You can pay for, any like if you want to pay mentors during the process of national boards, the support group, you're paying people that are leading that group. You can pay for them to take time to work on that process. That no one has seated, that is like a huge push in districts, but it is allowable. Yeah. You can do what Jennifer said, we can go back and look at how much money's left. We could possibly do happen. Number one, go back to the table. What's already been done in this all fund and say, oh, let's pick it up with that one. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these ideas are right. That common work will be sustained and long through conversation. There might not be I started at making some great program. So it's just I love all the ideas. Data session across the board, sustainability. Yeah, this is all straight from their January inauguration before you got it. They got pushed out before inauguration day, right? So we know that things can change. We know that this one is being looked at very heavily. So yeah, those are conversations that you need to have back in your district. If I'm paying for class size reductions, like I have districts that pay for a lot of class size reduction teachers. What if our contingency two doesn't come through, if Title II disappears? How am I continuing that? Salaries are a huge weight on our shoulders and our office. They are for you all as well. But yeah, you need to be mindful of being able to sustain some of these new initiatives that are going to be Title II, and really across the board. All right, so we need to make sure, as Denise already led us into this conversation, we need to have meaningful consultation and deep discussions about the use of funds that we're using and other areas. But who are our stakeholders when it comes to Title II? It's our teachers, our principals, our other school leaders, our professionals, specialized instructional support personnel, charter school leaders or private school leaders that you have included in your district, parents, community partners, and then other organizations and partners with relevant and demonstrated expertise in the programs and activities designed to meet this opportunity. We already talked about that Title II, professional development and other things that are included in it need to be data driven. So here's some data sources that you can use. You can use student data, educator and leader data, so your recruitment, retention trends, IOI report. So that's your teachers that are ineffective, out of field, and inexperienced. You can use survey and perception data, so school climate surveys. And then, what's the purpose of this data? Well, it's to identify the needs and also to measure the impact of Title II investments. Talk about the investment, how important it is to make sure that what we are using our funds for is actually working. So we're going to play a little game. At your table, I'm going to give you some scenarios. I want you to talk about them, about whether or not you think they're out under Title II, and then we'll pull that together. So here's the first scenario. An LAA uses Title II funds to pay stipends for teachers attending professional development outside of their regular work hours. Is that allowable? And down to this one. What is the answer, guys? Yes. All right. Yes, this is allowable. Why is it allowable? Well, the PD activity supports improved teaching quality. It's the stipend is compensating educational time spent outside of their contracted hours. Here's scenario number 2. An LEA implements a district-wide professional development initiative to train teachers and school leaders on selecting and implementing formative assessments. The program includes technical assistance, designing classroom-based assessments, analyzing student performance data, and using data to adjust instruction. In addition, the LEA provides teachers dedicated time during the school day for collaborative data review and instructional planning. Is this allowable or not under Title II? Next. Please. Training well. Allowable under Title II. Okay. Maybe circles. Is this allowable under Title II? The answer is yes. This is allowable under Title II. Why is it allowable? Well, it aligns with the professional development that is sustained, job embedded, it's data driven. It's focused on improving instructional practice and student outcomes. It supports evidence-based instructional decisions, and then enhances teacher and leader capacity to use data. Hey, so state mandated literacy training for all fifth-grade teachers and asked if Title II funds can be used in with the state mandate. Can we use Title II? No, we can't use Title II or any of our federal funds meet state mandates. So that's a supplement, not some mandate issue. It's state mandated. Okay, this is the last thing you have. So finishing with the beginning in mind, so we talked about that, the purposes of Title II are to increase student achievement, to improve the quality and effectiveness of educators, to increase the number and provide greater access to qualified teachers, principals, and other school leaders. So I would love for you to discuss one or two innovative uses of Title II funds in professional development, recruitment, and retention, or improving access to effective instruction for all students. So things that maybe are already in the district, or a need that you possibly have in your district that could be filled with Title II, fingers crossed. So I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to talk into it. Everyone's really excited. Hey, is there anybody that's ready enough to share something that you know something about? Put all of this in the minutes. Anyone want to share? Something like is a need in your districts? Nobody has recruitment problems. Everybody's great. All positions are filled. Share. This is. Rebecca from charter districts that she talked about supporting those new teachers. So sign-on bonuses, so you get mentors as well as development for those new teachers, ways to support them. Anybody else have something they want to share? So you're volunteers to be up. Yeah, and you volunteers. So as Denise said, we're all in this situation where we need teachers, we need to fill positions, so we have to get a little creative. So out of field teachers, support them to get them, properly certified, as well as using international teachers. I will tell you that there are some stipulations in Title II around international teachers. There certain things that we can't pay for with international teachers and things that are in state mandates or things like that that we won't pay for. So that's something that your district is looking at or is doing already, is using Title II funding. They contact the program manager and we'll be glad to talk through those seats with you. Last call. So at the end of Title II, we have some resources for you. As I already said, they've got some new non-regulatory guidance. One of them is probably why Title II is under the gun right now. I don't know. But these are resources that are still up currently. The U.S. Department of Ed does. They have lots of different question and answer guidance for you. And then there's also a link at the bottom about state and district uses. All Title II questions.